Bleach episode 43, Blood from My Bone. Was that our first 10 out of 10 episode of the final core? When you say Orihime's name now, make sure you put some respect on it. The Bleach community needed this episode. Orihime fans needed this episode. We get a beautiful fight between Yhwach and Orihime, but we also get some insight into their powers. Now, we know Yhwach has the power of the Almighty, which allows him to see multiple futures like grains of sand. What he's implying in this conversation with Orihime is that she has the power to reject reality. He has the power to see multiple futures and change those futures, and I believe through Ichigo's Bunkai, he can change one instance of fate. He does imply that his power and Ichigo's power are one and the same. Now, this is just speculation because we're going to have more manga scenes later on in later episodes that go deeper, is that the reason why Yhwach was so concerned over Ichigo's Bunkai is because no matter how many futures he can see, as long as Ichigo has access to his Bunkai, I speculate that he can just change that one instance of fate, and because of that, Yhwach will lose. Now, Orihime deserves a spotlight on her power as well. I connect everyone else on this channel to their Buddhist roots, so why not Orihime as well, right? Now, keep in mind a lot of this will be in a dedicated video for Orihime, but for now, here's a small little tease. The Shunshin Rika are essentially the threads of her power. They manifest as small hairpins with 6 points. When Orihime uses the word I reject, she is literally denying reality. Since the cause didn't happen, the effect doesn't exist either. Using a triangle for her shield to represent her power is actually connected to sacred geometry. The triangle represents taking refuge in the trinity of the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sunkai, which symbolizes Indra's net in Buddhism, where everything is interconnected. Taking a look at the design of the net, Orihime is basically picking a single node on the net and she changes the entire pattern, essentially creating a new reality. Those 6 spirits that she uses through her Shunshin Rika, their abilities link to the 6 perfections. And those are giving through restoration, ethics in her refusal to kill, and the patience needed to maintain her shields under pressure. There's also the energy required to reject massive spiritual pressure and the focus needed to maintain and create barriers. Also, the wisdom of using Sabaki to only use the force necessary versus excessive force. I love the way Kubo writes through symbolism, and Gege Akatami once said, people like Kubo and Fujimoto, the mangaka of Chainsaw Man, they can't be replicated. They have their own distinct way of writing that is very unique to their own character, and little do people know, Orihime, and you will see this in her dedicated video, is probably one of Kubo's best written characters. A plague of locusts on the original studio that worked on Bleach that really butchered the perception of Orihime in the anime. Now, coming out of Yhwach, Orihime, and Ichigo, I want to talk about Jurgam and Uryu for a second. I personally wish more of these fights had dedicated episodes, but the added information, it's much appreciated. I love how Kubo frames this fight through Jurgam testing Uryu as a pure Quincy who survived the Ashwelling, and this is extremely important. Slight spoilers ahead. Now, Jurgam through his Hashawat form has access to the Almighty to use freely as he pleases due to Yhwach's expanded pool of Reiatsu from the Soul King. Now, think about this. Back in episode 1, they showed us Yhwach's dream. And in that dream, he was losing. If that dream was the dream that Jurgam showed Yhwach, that means that this fight is truly just a test for Ishida to figure out why he really was the last surviving Quincy. Everything is done. That means fate is sealed. It's not that the fights are pointless. What I look at it as is that in this fight, and we see this through dialogue, is that Jurgam is testing conviction and he is seeing the truth of why they lost. Ishida knows the truth and consequences from killing Yhwach and what's going to happen to the world. But like he expresses, he already knows what Ichigo is going to say with that truth. And if you pay attention to how this is crafted and why I love the added information, like I said, Jurgam is testing conviction. Yhwach, he's going to expose the ignorance behind that conviction. He gives us probably some of the best lore in Bleach history surrounding Ichibei. This is all according to plan. Ichibei literally drinks the black Reiatsu of the Soul King. He gave Ichigo the Soul King's memories on purpose to judge whether or not he was worthy. The type of person that Ichigo has become is willing to burn the world down by taking out Yhwach despite the truth that Yhwach just told him. Why do you clad yourself in black? Black is the color of chaos. Black is the power of the Soul King. Yhwach tells Ichigo the truth. He literally reveals the evil behind Ichibei. And the only way that Ichigo can respond is that he doesn't care. Personally, maybe, just maybe, Yhwach would have won this war if he would have approached from a position of being truthful from the beginning versus setting up this whole manipulated plan to try to have this conversation now. Not to mention the disrespect towards the parents, that wasn't going to help either. Whatever he has done up until this point, no matter what he says, he has to go. Now, bold prediction, and you should already know this if you've been around my channel for a while, but I do believe coming out of this scene, despite Ichigo's words, Yhwach will get the last laugh in the future of the potential Hell arc. I hope I didn't just delay it by another 1,000 years by mentioning it. However, now that we're finally getting back caught up to the Miracle, the Vizards, and the other Shinigami, we have to deal with minutes of just useless Vizard action, a little bit of aura farming, as they say, but no real damage is done against the Miracle from the side of the Vizard. I would really appreciate if the Vizard at least pushed the Miracle to another evolution. Like, for example, like when they do their little Super Sentai Ginyu Force team up where they shoot the multicolored Zero Blast, actually make that mean something. Hit the Miracle with it, force him to evolve into something else, then take out the Visor. But I get it though. There's 10 episodes to go. There's a ton of additional information, but you have to make strategic cuts. It's unfortunate, but the Vizard are on top of one of the most hyped scenes and moments that are coming within the entire series of Bleach, which is the reveal of the new Bunkai for Toshiro, Byakuya, and of course, Kenpachi. Toshiro does arrive first and he freezes the Miracle, and we don't get to see too much of the fight from there because it transitions right back to Yhwach disrespecting Ichigo's life again, saying how he needed to correct his child. I love the way the anime made this scene feel by comparison to the manga. Orihime thinks that Ichigo has lost himself again. Also, crazy speed feat from Orihime catching him, but Ichigo had conviction in his eyes. He had a plan. You see, our boy needed to wake somebody up, letting them feel Yhwach's power. We see his sword turn white, the smoke appears. Horn of Salvation Ichigo. How long have we waited for this moment? I was out of my seat once again watching this reveal. The build-up of having Ichigo execute a plan that Orihime catches on to through just trust and feeling, making her important at each turn of his battle. She was never useless. Orihime's presence as a foundation, playing in part with Yhwach's disrespect of Ichigo's entire family for the last 2 episodes, more specifically his mother. Waking up Zangetsu, it felt like Ichigo was taking back what Yhwach stole from Misaki. She sacrificed herself that night, protecting Ichigo, who wasn't ready to be a hero just yet. Look at this fight. I wonder how proud she would be that he found a woman who could provide the foundation for his goals to exist while being able to protect him. It's crazy to me when people say Bleach doesn't have great writing, or when people say that Bleach isn't a well-written story. It's okay to not understand the way a writer portrays their themes or uses symbolism, but there's also an opportunity to upgrade the way you think. There's an opportunity to get in touch with that information by finding people who are really passionate about the story, who can bring those themes out. Am I saying Bleach is the greatest story ever written? Not even close. But man, do I love this manga. So much of my own life I have found within this story. You lose people, you hurt, you move on. You find people that love you, support you, and protect you. Their genuine acceptance of who you are allows you to be so much better than the person that you were. And that's Ichigo's story from chapter 1 all the way up through this moment. And all of the people that have guided him to that, from his father, sisters, Orihime, Chad, Yurichi, his extended family, all of the people who are part of the calamity heading into the final fights. Someone said it on X, but Bleach is a lot better when you have gone through a few things in life, when you've experienced a little bit of loss, when you have felt a little bit of pain, because the themes, they just come back and they hit so much harder. You're reading this fantasy story, but you find so much of yourself within those pages. I love Bleach. Amazing story. And we're not even done. They hit us with an ending, like, I would say somewhere around the 16-minute mark in the episode, and then they wrap back around to finally Byakuya and Kenpachi arriving unseen against the Miracle. I thought the relationship that they showed between Byakuya and Toshiro was so big brother, little brother Cody. You ever had siblings and you're getting older, more mature, you don't want to call out the flaws or anything like that because you know your sibling is working hard to become the person that they want to become? That's what this scene felt like. He didn't want to say anything about his height at all whatsoever. The joke was within itself. However, he just stayed composed. If you have watched OG Bleach, there was always a little bit of a comedic element running throughout the episodes. And I think with the final core, 1,000-Year Blood War, everything that's going on, it's been very serious. Just a little bit of this was a nice little callback to OG Bleach. But the most important part of the episode, I believe in episode 4, we are heading into Kenpachi's Bunkai territory. I am excited to see what this is going to look like. I have all kind of videos about speculating on what his Bunkai could be, but nothing is going to be better than actually seeing it happen. Make sure you're back here next Saturday for the episode 4 review. I am Zaku Zealot. Join the Discord, subscribe, turn on alerts, stay caught up with me. Peace out.